So for those that I have yet to meet, my name is Sabrina Johnson. I am the Guide Program Manager and a Care Navigator here at Synapticure. And this month we have one of our nurse practitioners, April, that's going to be presenting on communication this month. So if you guys were with us last month as well, we had our speech language pathologist kind of starts the communication trend. And we're going to have April that's continuing kind of help us just learn how to communicate on a deeper level. And if you guys don't mind in the chat, you can chat me privately or as a whole, but just let me know the name of the patient so I can make sure your care navigator knows that you guys were here today. And if there's any resources or things like that, that we can provide you guys afterwards as well. All right. And then April, I will go ahead. I'll keep letting people in as they log in, but I will go ahead and pass the baton over to you.
Hi, everybody. My name's April. As Sabrina said, I'm a nurse practitioner. My background has been in primary care and then neurology, specifically working in dementia space. So interestingly enough, a little bit of what I'm going to go over with you guys was applicable across my entire career, even in primary care, because I was working with families with young children and whether or not they had attention deficit or autism or anything like that. A lot of these communication skills kind of just fit the mold across the spectrum of our age group. So hopefully you get a little bit out of this today. And it's a lot of common sense stuff as well. So if you see it and think, oh, I already kind of knew that, I completely understand that. But hopefully I'm just kind of reminding you of, good ways to communicate with your loved one. And it's a good reminder because when you're in the thick of it, you can't always remember exactly what you need to do. Now, am I sharing the screen well or not?
Yes, I can see it on my end.
Okay, excellent. Y'all can see a presentation. Perfect. Good. I see Phyllis nod her head, so that works. Between Phyllis and Sabrina, I saw two people. So wonderful. Okay. I don't know how you all do questions. I think Sabrina said at the end. Yes.
Yeah, or if you'd like to, they can jump in with them,
Yep.
whatever you prefer. We could do a mix of both. That sounds good over here.
I'm fine with that. If you interrupt me along the way, I'm usually more of an in the moment person. If you have the question, I don't want you to forget it. So feel free to interrupt me and ask. All right, so our first one that we're going to go over is setting a positive mood. And this is common sense, but I really want you to think about this for a minute. Think about the first time you met someone at church, or you're meeting your new provider that's walking in the room, your primary, to introduce themselves. You want that person walking in, shoulders back, head up, making eye contact with you, smiling, speaking with respect, slowly, loudly, kindly. That is everything when you're dealing with, again, even small children or patients that your loved ones that you all are taking care of. So keep those things in mind that when you approach the person that you're dealing with, you're often in the thick of it. And I find myself as a mother sometimes, my shoulders are hunched over. I'm in the middle of something, and this look of frustration's on my face, and my kids point that out to me. So it makes me take a minute and pause and think, all right, deep breath. I'm going to stand up and I'm going to try this again. So hopefully, as I kind of just point out very simple things of standing up straight, smiling, speaking with a positive, kind attitude, and being respectful, it sets the tone because positivity from the beginning matters. If you set the tone being positive, the interaction starts on a good note. All right. Next one. We'll spend a few minutes on this one. Attention is everything. And again, I'll go back to having kids, but I also have aging parents, and both of them have neurodegenerative diseases. So I will tell you, I utilize this across the board, whether it's with my teenagers or my parents. Minimize noise. My kids, when I talk to them, cell phones have to go down, face down. I want them looking at me. When we go see my parents, my dad has to turn John Wayne down because he has got it blaring in his apartment because he can't hear. And I'm like, we can't visit with you, Dad, and have a conversation. So I'm like, let's turn John Wayne down and let's have a great conversation where we can all hear each other. So when you are approaching your loved one, minimize the noise in the room. If the radio's going, if they're playing on their tablet or games on the phone or the TV's on, minimize that distraction because the brain at this point is overwhelmed, and we want to keep distractions at a minimum so that they can focus on what you're telling them and make eye contact. That's huge. The biggest part of the brain goes to eyesight. So if we make sure that we are giving that feedback with eye contact, they will receive that information so much better. When my children were little, I learned very quickly if I stood over top of them and talked to them, it was like this, in one ear and out the other and gone. And I learned if I squatted down and got on their level and gave them some instruction, it went better. Think about that with your loved one. If they're sitting in the recliner, maybe get in a seat beside them or squat down. It's a power dynamic if you're standing over top of someone talking to them. So keep that in mind and make eye contact. Use the name. I know that sounds so silly, but again, I kind of will reference it back to my own life. When my kids talk, it's normally to me, and I'm paying attention best I can. But occasionally they say something to my husband who's oblivious that he's even being told something. And he always says, well, they didn't say dad, so I wasn't paying attention. So if you really think about it, it is a simple thing. But if you're talking to your loved one, you might just want to say, hey, Sabrina, I'm getting ready to tell you something. And then that way that their brain goes, oh, I heard my name. I need to stop doing where my thoughts are in the phone or wherever I'm watching TV and actually look up and listen. And then, if needed, identify yourself. If your loved one is a little confused, depending on the time of the day, it can't hurt you to say, hey, Sabrina, I'm going to sit down and talk with you. And just, as a reminder, this is April. We're friends. I live with you. I help take care of you. It can't hurt you to remind them, if needed, who you are, because then it calms the situation because they're not scrambling in their brain to always figure out exactly who's talking to them. Clear messages. This is a big one too. So it seems silly to say use simple words in short sentences, but in terms of dementia, it matters. If you, like in our presentation today, it'll be a bit that I talk to you. That is not something that we'd want to do in a patient with dementia, right? Because they'd be lost within a slide or two. We want to keep the topic that we're talking about very short and very simple phrases. Think again if you've ever taught Sunday school or you were a teacher yourself or you raised children. You didn't ask your 5-year-old to do XYZ. You gave them X and that was what you had them work on. So keep that in mind, speaking slowly. I'm notorious for talking fast. I'm a very extroverted person and I will often just, and my kids will often say, slow down. I can't keep up with what you're telling me, Mom. So speak slowly. It does matter. When talking about people, use names. Pronouns don't work at this point. So if you are taking your husband out to dinner and you're going to meet your friends that you play bocce ball with, that's not what you want to tell them. You want to say, hey, we're going out to see Fred and Judy. Fred and Judy is the couple we play bocce ball with. So just try not to use pronouns because that actually can be very difficult at this point for them to keep up with. And then again, places. If you are referencing something, do your best to actually say that specific place. So again, if you're going out to dinner, maybe it's we're going to Olive Garden today. We're not going to that restaurant or we're going over there. It does help the brain tremendously to know facts. It's things that they can hang on to and point back to. Simple questions. Yes and no are some of the easiest questions at this point to ask. Again, when my kids were little, I didn't ask an open-ended question. They're toddlers. It was, do you want waffles for breakfast? No. Do you want eggs for breakfast? Yes. Very simple questions. Now, as teenagers, I will tell you, I use open-ended a lot, and I've learned if I'm quiet, they tell me a whole lot more. But again, we're talking about with your loved ones, you want to think about very simple communication. So yes and no questions can make it a lot easier for them to respond back. So if you're again saying, are you ready to get dressed? No. Okay, well, would you like to get your teeth brushed first? Yes. Keep very simple ability for them to answer you and only ask one question at a time. Too many questions, It's too difficult. Okay. So just think one step at a time. And then offering options can help, this or that. So getting dressed. We're going to get dressed this morning. Do you want to wear your red shirt or your yellow shirt? And showing that to them is even better. Again, the biggest part of the brain is visual. Okay. So if you show them the red shirt and the yellow shirt, they may be more likely to pick out the color of shirt they want to wear. Options for breakfast. I've often seen people put pictures printed out onto little boards where they can say, do you want eggs or do you want oatmeal? And they can point to which one they want, especially if there's aphasia involved, meaning word finding trouble. So offering options, two choices usually is best, helps a lot in maybe speeding along the communication and allowing them some autonomy to make those decisions themselves. Listen, this is a hard one for me personally. I have to work to be an active listener. So, for those of you that are maybe like me in a type A personality, this is your biggest challenge. Okay. Patience is key. Give plenty of time for responses. Again, I'm learning this one having teens now. I'm learning very clearly if I be quiet, I find out a whole lot more information about friends, homework, school. Same with my parents when we go to visit. If I just give them a chance to get their thoughts out and I'm patient and I just ask the question and wait, the conversation actually goes a whole lot better versus me trying to take over that conversation. So, like I said, if it's your challenge too, just like it's mine, it's the work in progress, but learning to listen is key in dealing with patients with dementia. You can suggest words. I'm often asked this, that if you see someone struggling, can I suggest a word for them? Absolutely. You know your loved one best. You'll learn whether or not that's a good idea. But I can give you an example. I was over to see my mother right before we left for vacation, and my daughter's birthday was coming up. And so she wanted to write a check to give my daughter some spending money for her birthday for her vacation. And yes, she still is very old school, writes checks and everything. My mother-in-law's all into the electronic stuff, but my mom is still very much, it's the ledger, I'm writing the check, I need it in duplicate. She couldn't think of the word pen. So when she was like, I need you to hand me that over there, April, that I need to write that check for Morgan. And I was like, do you want me to hand you a pen, Mom? Yes. It helped a lot to give her the chance to get out what she was trying to say. And then when I figured out the word that she was struggling on, I did ask her if that's what she was asking me. Um, there are times, though, that suggesting the words don't go well, and we know that. So if it isn't, clearly don't. But I will tell you, for the most part, if you can find the one word they're kind of hung up on and help them with it, it allows them with that block to keep moving and to be able to move past that word that they're stuck on. And then nonverbal communication is huge. Right before we came on here, I had asked Sabrina if I can see some of you all. It matters. If I am trying to talk and get a point across and I can't see faces or smiling or head nodding, I have no idea if what I'm saying's registering, right? Nonverbal communication is a big deal. You know your loved one better than anyone. So if they're withdrawn and sad, the communication's not working. Try it a different way. If you see that they're sitting up and making eye contact and smiling and reciprocating back with you, then what you're doing is working. Take your feedback from that. There's going to be good and bad days. And what you do one day will work and the next day it won't. And you might find a rhythm and think, man, we're doing great. And you got a couple months and everything goes well, and then something shifts. It could just be the weather. And now what you're doing doesn't work and you have to try something else. So take all of this stuff, as just tools to help you come up with different ideas. Stepwise process. So how do we get through life? One step at a time, right? Communication really should be one step at a time. So no multi-step. Break everything down into simple choices. I'll give you an example. In dealing with parents that had children with attention deficit, I used to tell them, do not tell your kid to go to their room, get their shoes, get their backpack, and go to the front door. You're going to find your kid twirling in the room in front of their mirror because you just gave them too many steps. Give them one step. Get your backpack, and I will meet you right there. Don't move. Just go get your backpack. That's one step. They can accomplish it. Then get your shoes. Then meet me at the door. So for your loved ones, if they're doing things around the house, like taking out the trash or doing the dishes or folding laundry, don't give them multi steps to do. Have them do one step. Let's unload the dishwasher. That's it. The human brain wants to accomplish things. We want to be successful. It's positivity, it's happiness. So if we do a one-step task and can complete it and accomplish it, they're going to feel so much better. It is a little more work on the caregiver because now in your brain, you're thinking, I have 2 and 3 steps, right? We needed the dishes, the laundry, the towels folded. But I will tell you, it will go a whole lot better if you can check things off one at a time. Demonstration is everything. So majority of us are visual learners. It's really rare to have a true auditory learner. An auditory learner would be someone like Stevie Wonder. The man can hear a song and can play it by ear. Clearly, he's visually impaired, so his auditory part of the brain has really expanded more than probably the rest of us. The same goes for any other musician that can play by ear. I've known a few people that can hear a lecture one time and then recite stuff from it and ace tests, but the majority of us are not auditory learners. So again, go back to what I said about the brain. The biggest part of the brain is devoted to vision, is eyesight. We're visual people. I am a very visual learner. In school, when I was learning to put in an IV or a Foley catheter, I don't care how many times the professor lectured about it. I don't care how many books I looked at. Back then, there was no YouTube tutorials and things like that. I was still in a library with books. My kids do not enjoy those stories, but just saying, I could not learn to do that till I physically did it. I needed hands-on learning of being shown to put in that IV or start the Foley catheter. The rule of see one, do one, teach one applies for a reason. So if you need your loved one to do a task, like you want them to color a picture for 30 minutes while they're listening to Frank Sinatra for calm down time, get the coloring out and give them a choice of the 2 pictures. And then if need be, demonstrate how to color. Or folding towels, same thing. Demonstrate how you want them to fold a towel. It matters. Don't assume they know it and remind every time. Encourage. Who likes negativity? No one. So, encouragement's everything. And I will give you another example from my personal life. My daughter just turned 15, got her permit, and we just did our very first driving lesson in the church parking lot. Did not go well. My son, who's 17, spent a lot of his time doing race car games growing up. So let me tell you, when he was first learning to drive, he was a hot rod. We had to calm him down. He actually had a lot of pretty decent skills built in from video games. Her, not so much. Slamming on the brake, slamming on the gas. But let me tell you, I remembered because I'd been kind of toning up our presentation for today about encouragement. I thought to myself, she's very fragile. I'm going to do nothing but encourage her. So as that driving lesson went on, I kept saying, you're doing better at learning to softly tap the brake. We weren't great, but I learned very quickly that encouragement's everything. And I will tell you, it's one of the best times I've actually done in communicating with my daughter because I kept giving her positive feedback on what she was doing. So think about that. You don't want to point out somebody's doing something wrong. Maybe just point out a different way to do it or another option. But think about that long and hard because I know I'm guilty of often saying that's not the right way, and I'm learning that myself. Distraction and redirect. So this is one I've spent some time teaching over the years to patients, especially in the neurology space, their caregivers, on how to deal with those worst and most challenging moments where they're stuck and fixated on something. So hopefully these tasks, or these little tips right here will help you. Changing the subject. It's a simple thing, but maybe just changing the subject. So if you steer the conversation to something that you know they absolutely love talking about. My mother gets really stuck on things and she can be pretty negative. She can really focus on transportation picked her up 20 minutes late, or they didn't have the right fork for her breakfast that morning. I've learned very quickly if I change the subject and talk about her grandkids, we're past that. And it's just immediate. She's happy, she's smiling, and she's like on a whole nother playing field of, oh yeah, what was going on with them today? So if you know the subject isn't going well, maybe pick something that they love and you know is a good, safe subject and change the subject to that. Space can matter. Think about if you've ever worked in an office and you had no windows. I did for years. The neurology practice I was in, um, I had an interior office, I had no windows. I drove to work in the dark, I drove home in the dark, and I sat in my office. And my exam rooms didn't have windows. I couldn't have told you if it was snowing, raining, or a hurricane in Florida. I couldn't have told you anything. Getting outdoors matters. There's a lot said for vitamin D and resetting our circadian rhythms and things like that. So if you're having a rough moment, maybe get up and take a walk. Maybe go look out the window. Maybe go see if you can see your favorite flower out in the garden. But changing that space matters, and you just changed visual input. And I've said it about 4 times and I'll say it again. The biggest part of the brain goes to eyesight. So if you change that space and now you're looking out the window commenting about the cardinal in their tree with the birdhouse that they have, their brain is on that. And you might see that the attitude changes and whatever moment of negative fixation, it's gone. Tangible is a big deal for the brain. So often you can reset your loved one with a tangible activity. Tangible means touch. A good example is folding laundry. I have told a lot of my care partners over the years, keep a basket of towels handy, and when needed, dump it out and say, I need your help. Could you please fold these towels for me? Put on their favorite music while that's going on. That's a extra stimulation for the brain. But that task of touching something often redirects the brain. Touch is very powerful. When we are in our ladders of consciousness, like with anesthesia, and as you're going to sleep, one of the last things that goes is touch. So I tell people think about that, because if you use touch and you use eyesight, you can often redirect your loved one. Towels are one of my favorite things, by the way, to have people fold. Who cares? What's it matter what they look like? Triangles or squares, you can still fit them in the cabinet and you can encourage and tell them they did a positive activity. If you've read a few books on communication, you've heard the next one. It's called Yes and Communication. It is something that I've used since my kids were little, all the way now again to my parents. I've taught it to many, many care partners. It's really effective for redirecting, so it's a good one to try. Your goal in this is to validate what they're saying. They're in their reality at that moment. Validate it and redirect. So I'll give you an example of a patient I had. The patient was female and the care partner was the husband. And he said to me, he's like, every single morning we have the same argument. It's like Groundhog Day, like that movie with Bill Murray. He's like, it never stops. And I'm like, well, tell me what's going on. And he said, she gets up every morning and wants to see her sister, Sally. And Sally's been dead for 10 years. And then I tell her that. And now the day's ruined. She's crying. She's upset. And he's like, I don't know how to handle this. And I said, well, why don't we try yes and communication and see what this does? I told him to validate it. I don't want him to lie to her. I said, validate it. Say, oh, I hear you. You would love to see your sister Sally. Unfortunately, he liked his sister-in-law. So I said, say something nice about her. Say, I'd love to see her too. She was funny. She told a great joke, didn't she? And it allowed his wife to be in that moment for a minute and have that moment on what she was thinking of, her sister. And then I told him and redirect her. Don't point out Sally's been dead. Don't go down that road. Just redirect. Say, "Ah, I agree. I would love to see Sally too. And let's go over here and get dressed for the day." Because honestly, in the brain, she's thinking, I need to get ready for Sally. And then remember, short-term memory is very short. So by the point that now we're doing something tangible like getting dressed, there's a really good chance that the fixation of needing to see Sally is going away, but we've kept ourselves in a nice positive mood to keep the day going positively. So I hope that one helps because that is a big key that I have used a lot with patients over the years, like I said, and I to this day still use it with my own parents and kids. The funny part is when they twist it and do it back on me. My kids are learning what I do for a living very well, and they'll often use the stuff back on me. Live in the moment. Your loved one has short-term memory loss, I guarantee, and there's some long-term possibly as decline happens. Living in the moment is everything. If you focus on that moment in the present, it will pass. You just have to find the way to redirect so that it can pass. In that moment, the best thing you can do is validate exactly what they're saying, they're feeling, their concern is. Whether they're crying and upset, I hear you, you're upset, and validating what they're upset about. Give it that moment and then do your best to try to redirect. And remember, the redirection is often best used with something they can touch and something new to look at. Reminisce. Who doesn't love to reminisce? Everybody loves to reminisce. I love to reminisce. I can wax rhapsodic about things in my childhood and things with my kids when they were little. We all want to reminisce. As the evening comes and sundowning can happen, which I realize can happen any time of the day, but it's notorious for being later in the day. That's a really good time to sit down and start chatting about all the best memories of life, whether it's pulling out the photo album, putting on the favorite music, talking about the grandkids, talking about what they did for a living. Long-term memory is called long-term for a reason, right? It stays the longest. Going back to those comfortable places for them is a very good way to actually keep the brain going. And as you go through each day, you'll see that the more you stimulate long-term memory, that they often do better as the weeks go by, even in the short term, because again, you're stimulating the brain. Soothing connections can help. Again, like I said, looking at photos and whatnot. Another thing that can be very soothing is trying to stimulate all of the brain at the same time. And I'll give you another example for that. We have sight, sound, touch, taste, smell. So everybody knows the five senses, but there's two more that we often kind of forget: balance and happiness. So I consider seven, and I use happiness last because it is the most important, truly. That being said, you can do an activity and set it the same every evening and get that routine of it's calm down time. We're doing soothing activities. If you have young grandchildren, coloring pictures is great for your loved one. It's a way for them to bond and they'll feel that. So when my kids were little, my parents colored Lightning McQueen and Disney and Barbie pictures for my kids while listening to their favorite music and with a cup of tea. So now we just hit all parts of the brain. So we had sight because we're coloring a picture, sound because we had the favorite music on, right? Taste and smell are often forgotten. So that nice cup of chamomile tea to calm down in the evening. Balance. You got to have balance to sit in the chair and pick up the crayon, right? And the fact that they were coloring pictures for their grandkids meant so much to them, they were happy. And using those type of activities every evening can kind of signal it's time to calm down, it's bedtime. Think about if you had children when they were little. They always talk about that bedtime routine, right? Get the baby ready for bed, calming bath, soft music. It's the same for all of us, not just your loved one. You as care partners, those bedtime routines count. Sleep matters. And that calming routine, that soothing activity before bed, it can go a long way. Oh, reassurance. It's important. So, how do we do that? Dementia, we know, causes confusion, anxiety. They're unsure. As a care partner, you are also. You're in the thick of it. You're dealing with it in that moment, and there's nobody else with you when that's going on. So you also can get anxious and feel unsure. The best thing you can do is take that moment and realize that and make a connection. So I put a picture specifically with the daughter kneeling down, making eye contact and holding her mother's hand. This is a big deal. Take that moment and do that. It's good for both of you. It'll allow that moment to be reset and allow you the reassurance and the comfort of touch and that eye contact. Again, visual, biggest part of the brain. Avoid confrontation. Like I said, this one's a tough one for me. I do have to work on this a lot with my own parents. I have to often remember not to say, that's not right. I'm learning to say we need to do it this way, or ooh, that's a good way to try to do that, but we might need to try it this way. So you want to try to not use the words that you're wrong, anything that seems negative. Like I said, for me, this is personally a work in progress with my own parents aging, because again, my mother the other day was filling out that check and she didn't fill it out right. So we had to do a second one. Um, the best thing I can think to tell you is if you know it's going to cause a problem, is find a way to give them as much independence as possible. An example might be the TV. My mother's favorite show is Dancing with the Stars. I don't know. Some of you smiled. I saw a few of you. I think she loves that show. But it doesn't come on all the time. So when it goes off for a season, she forgets how to use her TV to get back to it. And TVs are not getting easy for any of us to use. I have to have my teenagers sometimes help me with all this fancy stuff now. But here's what I've learned to help my mother be independent. I make her a list of how to do the TV. Hit the square button to turn it on. Hit the down arrow 2 steps to get to this. Hit OK. This gets you to Disney Plus. This is where Dancing with the Stars is. And I'm talking step by step. We practice it and practice it. Now remember, short term, it's not sticking. Takes about 21 days to make something a habit and to get to long-term memory. Okay. So if Dancing with the Stars comes on every Tuesday,
Oh, I think she froze. Sorry. I thought it was me that froze for a second, but it was her that froze. So she'll be back in a second. But while we wait for her to come back, does anybody else watch Dancing with the Stars? Or how about just even having a show that they like to watch with their loved ones?
For me, in my home, the absolute worst invention ever is not just the TV. That's hard enough. It's the cell phone. I can't remember how to use it, but you won't say that. I have arrested all my contacts. I can't hear if it's ringing. Everybody wonders where I am. So I literally have to play dumb. I say, I wish I could help you, but I don't understand it either. And because otherwise she'll be calling me all day long to say, I can't find so-and-so. I don't know how to call this one. I don't know how to text that one. So, and then when she does text, it doesn't make any sense. So, it's like that to me is I just have to smile and say, gosh, I wish I knew how to use it too. So
I think that's a really smart way to approach it as well, too. I like to even think of that like with my kids, right? They are really big into video games. And I'm like, you have to ask your dad those questions. Like, could I learn how to turn on the Xbox and play all those? 100%. Do I want to? No, because once I know those things and they know I know those things, then I become the question
Yes.
master of that. So I think too, it's a great way and also a connection point too, then, right? I think that when you're going through a cognitive change, you're already just feeling like you're the only one that's going through this of why do they know all of these things and I'm the only one who doesn't know what's going on. And so I think for them, it feels great being like, okay, she also doesn't know how to do this too. And so it makes them in that moment to feel a little bit connected with somebody as well too, like, oh, I'm just as confused while you're also then calling everybody being like, please just stop calling her and just call me and I will give you those updates. And like also like the security aspect of things as well.
How bad is TV when people have dementia? Because my parents are watching it, my mom especially, literally all day long. And so it is also hard. There, I don't even think there are other activities aside from going out to church or going out to eat that they are interested in. So do we just let them watch it, or is it like we got house on fire, we need to be doing something else?
I think you do what you do to survive. And if TV is working and they have something that they're doing, don't. I think sometimes as caregivers, we try so hard to like fill a day with doing. And then we get very frustrated when it's like they're resisting it or they're not wanting it or, all of these things that sometimes I think like if it's working too, just there's battles that you're going to have to battle through. And if they are doing it and it's okay, just keep doing it. And then if you have a fight that you need to fight later of like getting in the shower, then you're like, this is a fight that we're going to fight and we can go watch a show later. And so I think that sometimes we focus a lot on there needs to be, more or, what could we be doing where like if it's working right now and it's getting them through the day and everybody's like getting through the day, get through the day. And
Okay,
that's okay, too.
because one of my concerns is like if you're watching the TV, you're not talking.
Mm-hmm.
And I just am wondering to what extent my mother's inability to speak. It's not that she can't find words,
Mm-hmm.
but she slurs. It's harder to understand her. And I'm just wondering, like, the caregivers, one of them, it depends on which one, but I don't think she really does a lot of conversation with any of them. She
Mm-hmm.
started pointing at things, and I just wonder, I don't know that it's not that she can't talk, but I just wonder if she's losing that ability. Just like when you don't walk, you're losing that ability. On the other hand, you're right, it does keep them entertained. They sit there, they're not wandering off trying to do random stuff. But
So I challenge you to use it as an advantage. So like if there's a certain character that they're really liking, um, using that as a conversation point. So like, oh, what was, Betty doing today on that show? Or, oh, Betty always makes apple pie. Would you like us to make apple pie together like her? Or like if it's Wheel of Fortune, just being like, let's try and find words that have RST, any, things like that in there. Like using that also as a conversation starting point or a point of connection as well, too. And even like for the caregivers that might be there, like how can that be a way then that they can use that to connect with them? Same then, one thing I always like to tell people, like if their loved one ends up in the hospital, finding things that other people can connect with that patient too. So for example, like even if you were in a hospital or you were to take them to church or a senior center, being like, my mom really loves Wheel of Fortune. So like if you need to talk to her about something, talk to her about Wheel of Fortune. Or if she's just rambling about something, try and bring her back to Wheel of Fortune. So like using a show or things like that as a connection and like talking point as well too, that can help kind of guide people to bringing them back into just a way to connect as well.
the problem is the TV's on, and therefore you cannot have a conversation. And that's kind of what gets me. Right? Like, what? Because like then you're interrupting the show.
How does she do, like, if you turn, or them in general, like if you turn it off, like if you were to be like, we are going to um watch one more episode and then we're going to turn it off for a little bit.
That would be bedtime, and now we're taking a shower. Like, I'm not joking, it's on all day, and
Mhm.
it's always been on all day. Like in my entire life, it's been on all day. And I'm like, I guess I'm wondering to what extent is it like, oh, well, no, it's fine. They're listening, therefore they're having language processing. Or is it like, this is contributing to dementia, to the inability to do stuff. They're not getting out and exercise. I mean, I already know that they're not exercising. Not that they ever did, because again, they watch TV all day. But like, you can't have those conversations because you would have to shut the show off, which the TV doesn't go off. They eat dinner in front of the TV, like the whole thing, morning to night.
So maybe that then becomes like one part to try and adjust to, is like having it where it's turned on a little bit later, or like, let's try, instead of just having it where it's just for like showers and bedtime, that we're turning it off like an hour sooner, and having something then there where it becomes like a gradual thing. I think if doing things too drastically sometimes can lead to like behavior changes, or just like latching out too. So you want to like find that fine line to it. So if it's something that you want to even just see if that changes anything in general, try something like that. But I think that it's also worth like talking to the doctor about too, of just like, is this something that we should try and have more like conversations around, or anything like that as well too, but like gradually then have that be something that kind of changes in the routine, just so you don't end one habit to like start a new habit as well. But it looks like April was able to get back on.
I'm so sorry. I'm in Southwest Florida and we have horrific thunderstorms at this time of the day. And it just takes one big boom of thunder and a lightning crack. And then that's what happens to our internet. I'm so, so sorry.
That is okay.
I think we were down to almost the last slide. And let me see if I can get my screen shared again. I apologize, everybody. I'm so sorry. I appreciate the patience. Thank you all. Can you see the screen? Did I share correctly?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Okay, very good. Again, thank you all for your patience. So sorry about that. Hopefully it won't go again. So I put this one last because I was telling you about the 7 parts of the brain, and honestly, I think happiness is the most important. So doodles are notoriously a very happy dog. So I put a picture of a doodle on there. But here's the thing at the end of the day, laugh at yourself, laugh at the mistakes you make. I do that constantly. I laugh a lot. Hence, like right now, I always am laughing because I make a lot of mistakes. Um, Laughter is the best medicine. We know that, but happiness is everything. It's so important that each day that you get up and you just do your best to have a good day with your loved one, because these are important days of the rest of your lives. And I keep that in mind as a mother and a working wife and a daughter and all of that. I do my best every day to do good by everybody. Some days, not so much. I don't do as good as taking care of my kids, or maybe I'm not as good at taking care of the house or something. And I just get up and say, I'm going to try again the next day. It's one thing I try really hard not to do, is hold that standard to myself and just get up every day, make it a good day, and laugh and have lots of fun. And I'm known for a lot of giggling, and my kids would tell you that too. So try to remember that in your day to day with your loved one. Laughter is very contagious. Some of you are smiling and thumbs upping, and I appreciate that because yes, it is. So, so there you go. So again, that's my presentation. What can I do to help you guys? And I'm so, so sorry that Sabrina had to hop in there for a minute and talk while I was off.
So when it comes to like communication, I know we've talked a little bit about this last week as well too. What types of challenges do any of you guys maybe find that you would like some like strategies on, guidance? Is there any types of even just like topics where you're just kind of like, I'm struggling as a caregiver and I don't know how to handle this type of situation? Maybe my loved one is just repeating themselves a lot and I don't know how to control myself in those moments. there anything that any of you are going through that you would just kind of even like guidance on, support, even just to connect with each other to be like, are you guys also kind of having these moments to make me feel a little bit more connected to know I'm not alone in this as well?
Mostly, we just get through the day, as you say. Uh, my husband just sits in the chair and falls asleep, and it's hard to get him to want to do anything, to be motivated to do anything. And he's definitely deprived senses wise because he has paranoia and won't go out, so needs new glasses, but won't go to the optometrist, so he can't see very well. He can't hear very well, and we've tried the folding towels, and he's almost like too smart for that. Like I see what you're trying to do, and so a lot of times I just give up and let him just wait for the next meal and walk over to the table. And it's to me, there's not any laughter, there's not any humor, there's not any joy. It's just getting through the day. And I always wish on the days that I have energy and that we could do better.
Can you have an optometrist come to the house? I was looking online. It looks like maybe some areas have something like that. And then you wouldn't have to leave right away. Same thing with the audio. Maybe someone could bring the stuff to you.
I'm sorry, I missed the first thing you said. I had it turned.
I'm wondering
waiting.
if someone can come to your house to do the tests, if he's uncomfortable leaving, so that you could get new glasses and hearing aids. Maybe somebody could bring the equipment to you.
You should try looking up mobile units, because with COVID and just technology getting better on some levels and then making life more difficult on other levels, there are a lot of people who started small companies that provide mobile service. In Jersey, because my mother has hearing aids, I was able to find a mobile company that will come out and just do the ear cleanings for her. They couldn't help her with the hearing aids, but my mother has no eardrum in one ear and only a half an eardrum in the other. She had a horrific surgery as a child that has caused her to lose her hearing. And she has to have the ear wax removed from her ears at least every 3 to 6 months. And it's really gross. But there was a mobile company that came out and did it for her. So if you look up mobile companies or companies that provide mobile services for different things, you'd be surprised what you find. Try that. That might help, because I have the same problem with my mother. She has macular degeneration. We're watching TV. I'm not even sure what she's seeing. I just know she knows how Steve Harvey claps. So she knows we're watching. I swear to God, she does the clap like this, just like. So she's like, that's my man. So we watch Steve Harvey all the time. I even found a channel on Samsung TV that just shows the best stuff. And because she's completely clueless as to what's going on, she doesn't realize we're not watching a whole show. She's just seeing clips back to back to back, and she loves it. But I'm not sure what she's seeing. And her hearing it's just getting worse. And that was the only thing I was able to convince her to go out for. My mother hasn't been out in months, but she keeps whining about wanting to go back home to Paris. And I'm like, you know what, Mommy, if you just go downstairs and go out that door, I will get you on the first thing smoking to Paris. We can go. We can go. She's like, nah. And she instantly changes her mind. No, I don't want to go. So, I have her role. My mother was a master knitter. Like, she can do hundreds of stitches, but she did them by heart, by memory. No books, making baby clothes and blankets. And now because of her vision is so bad, because she can't really knit anymore, I made the mistake of buying her a whole new set of double point needles, knowing she wasn't going to be able to use them. But what I found that pacifies her in the meantime, when she, as opposed to getting frustrated with the not being able to knit, I have her wind yarn for me. I don't really need it wound, but I let her do it. You know, I get the big Karen 1 pound yarns, and I have her make the balls a certain size, and I tell her, oh, I'm making blankets and I want them all different colors, so I need the balls just to be this size, so she doesn't wind the entire 1 pound into another big ball. And that occupies her time and makes her feel useful. You know, I let her clean the greens. I'll buy some collard greens and she will clean them, pull them off the stem and keep them in the bowl because she can't stand for a long time. Or I have her clean the string beans, you know, pop the ends off of them. Give her a big pot, and you know, and if I don't use them all, I you know, flash steam them, or what do you call it? You know, steam them real quick, and I freeze them. Anything to keep her busy. Because my mother is, she was always on her feet, going, 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 going. And now she's having difficulty walking. And, you know, of course, her memory is fleeting so fast now, I can't keep up with her. The other day, I thought we were talking and she was having a conversation and I'm responding to her. And I was like, hello. I said, hello. I said, are you even listening to me? She looked at me dead in my face. She says, absolutely not. I just had to I just turned around and went back to what I was doing. I was like, oh, okay, that conversation was over and I didn't even know it. So, you know, you need to try just something different to try, but look up mobile services and you just might get lucky and somebody will come to the house and be able to do it for you.
Thank you so much for that. And then April, we just have one that came in through the chat that I wanted to read to you of anxiety spikes with the dementia and wondering if I'm the quote unquote real wife or not throughout the day, continually asking who is with him when, how to reassure when that is the source of worry, frustration, and sometimes fear, such as wondering if the other Sarah is the one driving him to the bank and maybe trying to steal money, etc. So that is something a caregiver would like some advice on.
Imposter syndrome is one of the hardest things to deal with when they think that the Sarah that's with them is the one stealing money and the other Sarah that's not at the house is the good Sarah. That imposter syndrome's tough. As much as I can tell you in terms of how the brain works, it really is that live in the moment. So if they think that the bad Sarah, the one that's stealing the money, is there, find that way to maybe, oh, okay, you know what? Let's get the other Sarah. I don't know if you have to walk out of the room, try and do a reset and come back in. I've had a lot of people over the years try a lot of different things when it comes to imposter syndrome. And it's very difficult to convince that you're that Sarah. It really is. In their brain at that moment, that is a belief that they have that somebody that's wanting to hurt them's there. It's very important to talk to the provider that's taking care of your Sarah, your loved ones, because sometimes there's some medication that can help with imposter syndrome a lot. But beyond that, I would try a couple options of like leaving the room and let's get that other Sarah. Mirrors sometimes are the problem. And I don't know. I've often heard in imposter syndrome, if people can cover some of the mirrors in their house, that it can help with the orientation of what's in front of them. That the reflection in the mirror, especially if their eyesight's worsening, like macular degeneration and things, the brain will make up things that it sees to compensate. Like a tree. If they're looking out the window and they see a tree in the yard, they're fine. That's their tree. That tree's been there forever. They love that tree. But as the sun goes down, the eyesight gets worse. The tree is now snake limbs moving. And you can't tell them different because they know that. They believe that. I would attempt to then, those cases, you close the windows. You know it's going to happen ahead of time. So for the imposter syndrome, I'm telling you it's trial and error, and you're going to have to test a few things and see what works. And what works now will work for a week and then it won't. And then you have to try something else. It's unfortunately constantly shifting.
All right, well,
Is
we're getting, go ahead.
is snakes a common theme on these hallucinations?
Yeah.
It is. Okay, that's interesting. Because my mom says that there are snakes under her porta potty, and we've narrowed it down to a memory at 9 years old that I think is real. But that's really interesting if it's like everybody imagines snakes. Is that what
I
you're
hear
saying?
snakes a lot, spiders,
Okay.
bugs crawling. Yeah. Yeah.
Those are legit. We actually had a spider on my mom's pillow, and I was like, okay, that's it. Next time she talks about spiders on the pillow, it was there. The snake's not in our house. We don't have them anymore. So that was a little, yeah, you never know. Like, there was a roach in the room, and if she hadn't thrown it away into the trash and told me it was in there and I looked, I would have thought it was fake. But she had killed it in the night. And I was like, okay, I'm pretty sure there's still no snakes, but the rest of these can be real. So
Oh, yeah, I see that when you switch eyeglasses. Yeah. Oh, biggest part of the brain goes to eyesight. They're taking in visual. So the minute that you change hair color, put your hair in a ponytail, wear a hat, don't wear your makeup, change the eyeglasses. Oh yeah, you're going to be a whole nother person. Um, it's like little babies. Have you ever seen where little babies, the dad shaves the beard off and the kid's freaking out because they have no clue who that is, right? It's the same concept in the human brain. So you got to think with your loved one as much as it can. It's that routine. You want to look very similar, try to make sure, you talk similar, you act similar. Yeah. Changing eyeglasses will do it. That is the truth of the matter. Yeah.
I just want to thank April very much for today, and she'll be doing a few more of the caregiver skills training webinars as well too. So keep in mind, we'll send an email out the first of the month letting you know the topic and who's hosting it as well too. I hope that you guys have a fantastic rest of your day. We'll send out an email as well too, but just to give you guys that are here a heads up, next month in August, Synapticure is doing an offsite. We're all going to be together in Chicago to just, work together, be together since we're a virtual company. So just actually get to be together. So we will not have an August webinar. So just to give you guys a heads up on that as well too. So we'll send out emails, but while you guys are here, I'll just let you guys know that as well. Please feel free to reach out to your care navigators if you're needing anything, or you can reach me directly if you're needing anything as well. And have a fantastic rest of your week and a great July.